To part 1, drawing with lines, the reference for the paint program. You should have clicked on this video by clicking this link here. Obviously it's not there yet because I haven't finished making the video. Point being, click on the sandbox program please, upper left corner of CodeHS. You are going to create a program. This is our painting program, so that's what I'm going to call mine. Click create program, go to JavaScript graphics. All right. Now, if you start with any code, go ahead and remove all of that. We don't need it at all. Make sure you start with a nice blank area. The very first thing I'm going to do is create an active color variable. I'm going to start it at black. You could choose any color. The reason we're doing this is because we're going to change that color in part 2. So you'll want to have that variable for part 2. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to paint with lines. So I'm going to make a function that adds a line, but I do want to add that line using my mouse. We talked about this in class, but you're going to put the word mouse for any function that's going to be using a mouse button or mouse click or mouse movement. And you're going to start by adding the mouse X and mouse Y that we mentioned in class. I recommend you always start with these whenever you have any sort of mouse clicking or mouse moving function. Once we have those, our next step is actually to add a line in. A line is a graphical object. You can find all the reference for this in docs, documentation, graphics, go down to the lines button here. Now using that reference, we're going to make a new line at points x1, y1, x2, y2. This is where things get a little bit weird. We want to draw a line at our mouse point, but we want that line to appear so it can't be two of the same points. We only have one XY position. We're going to use that first. The second position is supposed to tell us where the line ends. For now, we're going to make our line end right next to our mouse. So as long as at least one of these is different, our line should show up. So I'm just going to make this one bigger than both my mouse Y and X position. I should have the tiniest little line on screen. We want that line's color to be the active color. You're going to change this later. Go ahead and add that line. And make sure this function works by using a quick mouse drag method on the add line function. We're going to use the drag because every time I click and drag, I want a line to appear at those points. You'll notice right now it's going to look a lot more like dots because all my lines are exactly 1 pixel away. Essentially, these are just little circles. Make sure your program works like mine. I know it's not ready yet. Ideally, every time I click and drag, I want these little dots to actually all be connected with little lines. That is the next step we are going to do. The tricky part about this is we want to change the line here. If we go to our documentation, we want to change only one of the points. Wherever I started clicking, that first XY position, I want that to be the point I'm looking at. The second one, I want to be able to move this as I'm moving my mouse, and I want to move that line to a new spot. Most of you are going to be tempted to use line.move. Don't use that. There are 2 line methods that we are going to use, either the line set position or the line endpoint. I'm going to use the endpoint to move the back part of the line. The first part stays the same because that's where I clicked. The last part is going to change because that's where my mouse is moving. This is where the weird part comes in. We are going to add a function within a function. The reason we are doing that is because this line here was created inside the add line function. If I write a function down below, let's say after the mouse drag method here, this function cannot use the line above. There's no way for us to access that. If we want to access this line, it needs to be within the same curly bracket area that I'm highlighting here. So we have to make our function inside another function. You are allowed to do this. I don't usually recommend it because it can get a little bit confusing. There are specific cases in which you need this. So I'm going to set the end of my line using my mouse again. I want to make it so that every time I move my mouse, that endpoint is set. So I'm going to start by, again, always use these mouse X and mouse Y things. Pardon me, I just copy and pasted those. Now I'm going to choose one of those methods I highlighted. I want to use this line set endpoint down here just because that makes a little more sense to me. My line was called line, so I'm going to keep using that name. Dot set endpoint, that's a lowercase p. And I want that endpoint to be my new mouse's position. My mouse's position is always X and Y. It doesn't matter that I have one out here. This is a brand new X and Y. This is something we call the scope of variables. Because I said let, there's a new mouse X and mouse Y dictated by this function that is completely different from the mouse X and mouse Y dictated by this function out here. They have a slight overlap, but I'm going to use the closer one, the more specific one. The closer mouse X is up here in this blue section, so that's the one I'm referring to. Remember that our mouse move methods are always outside the function they are made, so I'm just going to go to the line below and write mouse move method. I want to change that endpoint as I am moving my mouse. So if we start here, you'll notice that our paint program is working a lot better. The only issue is my mouse movement always changes the endpoint, so I always have this little tail of my last brush stroke kind of stuck to my mouse. One more time just so you can see that. I click, I'm dragging right now with my mouse and there's no problems. It's only when I release the mouse and I'm trying to stop drawing that I'm stuck with this because of the mouse move method. What I need to do is reset my mouse move method every time I release the mouse because I want to stop drawing. I need to tell my program, oh, please stop drawing at this point. That means I need another function for what happens when I release the mouse or when I have mouse up. This is part of why we have so many different mouse methods. Oftentimes, just to do something simple like painting, you need more than one of these. What we're going to do is add another function inside the add line. Again, the reason for that is because I'm trying to affect the line here. All of this is related to that same line, and so this is totally fine. I'm going to make another function for stopping my drawing. I can put a mouse in here. I'm not actually going to use it, but since I told you guys to always, always, always copy and paste this, we'll copy and paste it. The important thing is to stop drawing, we just need to stop this mouse move method. It needs to stop working. So I'm going to write mouse move method, and I'm going to put blank parentheses. Up here, when I say mouse move method, I say every time I move my mouse, run the function setLineEnd. Down here, when I have mouse move method again, I'm overwriting the one from line 19. And now I'm saying mouse move method should now run no function. In other words, stop moving the end of the line, I'm done drawing. Keep in mind, I want this function to happen on a mouse movement, I want this function to happen when I release the mouse. In other words, this stop drawing happens when my mouse is up. So I'm going to use that mouse up method on the stop drawing function. Now you will see that endpoint is no longer stuck to my mouse. I can draw whatever little squiggles I want. As long as I release the mouse, that endpoint should stay there. And every time I'm clicking and dragging, I get a new line. The reason for that is because this mouse drag method out here adds a line, and that line is defined by some other functions that tell me when to stop drawing the end, or when to move the endpoint, and when to stop drawing entirely. And every time I drag, I get a brand new line. So double check yours. It should work like a normal expected paint program. You should be able to draw a bunch of squiggles. You should be able to draw as many lines as you want, clicking and dragging, and they should overlap one another. That is it for part 1.